So you might be tired of the day in and day out struggles that you're having with content creation. There always seems to be a new update, a platform change, an updated feature, a new algorithm, or maybe you just see your business bestie popping out so much content and you're wondering how they're doing that without burning out. Well, the big solution to solve all of these problems is actually going to be content repurposing. Over the last few years, I've really mastered the art of content repurposing, and it is something that I do every single day as part of my content creation process. It's the foundation for literally every single piece of content I create, including this one that you're seeing right now. And I create between 30 to 50 different pieces of content every single week. And it all comes down to this three-part approach that I like to call the 3 R's of content repurposing. So what exactly are the 3 R's of content repurposing? It actually comes from a very popular content marketing kind of principle theory, if you will. And the 3 R's of this theory are typically seen as reduce, reuse, recycle. And honestly, it's a bit too robotic and it can be a little bit more complex, especially if you're a small business owner approaching content creation as a solo entrepreneur. You don't have a huge team, maybe you outsource a couple of things. You don't technically need this very robust content marketing practice. It's one that's often used by much larger companies with full-on content marketing teams. So instead, I wanted to break this 3R concept down into some very common terms you might be a little bit more familiar with that are a little bit easier to understand and will help you in content creation specifically for your business. And simply, these are repost, reuse, and repurpose. A little bit simpler to understand with a lot easier definitions. Reposting means to simply use the same piece of content over and over and over again. Reusing is simply taking a concept, using it over and over again, but with small tweaks or minor editing. And repurposing is creating a brand new piece of content, but using an existing piece of content as the foundation. And now, I definitely want to get into some examples to really demonstrate how you can put this into practice, and we'll dive into some pros and cons and how you might approach each of these 3 different R's. So first, let's talk about reposting content. The biggest pro of this approach is actually that it is the easiest one to do. It requires no skill, it's very low effort because you are simply taking a piece of content that you already created and posting it again further down the line. The biggest con to this is that it won't always work for every single piece of content. It works for pieces of content few and far between. Because sometimes the content that you're creating is timely in nature, meaning it only worked for that specific time period in which you posted it. Maybe your messaging has changed, maybe your brand has changed, and just because it performed well once doesn't always mean that it will perform well again. You have to lean into content that is more evergreen in nature when it comes to this approach, meaning that that piece of content that you created 6 months ago will be relevant in a year from now, and then you can repost that content over and over again. But there's also a couple things that you want to know about this practice is that it can be very, very tedious if you don't have an organized system for your content. Or sometimes you need a tool or a process or an app that will help you not only extract that content that you've already posted, but help you post it later on down the line. So for me, I have more of an organized approach where I save every single piece of content I create. It either lives into Script or Canva, so that I can always pull from it to create content in the future. But let's say you don't have that system in place. You might need to lean into a tool like a scheduling tool similar to Later or Metricool or something like that, that will allow you to copy old posts and put them out at a future date, or have some kind of tool or software that will help you kind of in this process. So when you can use this strategy or this approach, it's something that I do all the time. And typically I do this for one of 2 reasons. Is one, it is a piece of content that is so hard hitting to my audience. And that doesn't necessarily mean it got a bunch of likes and shares and saves. While that is always a good indicator for something I want to repost, maybe it's something that drove a lot of sales and is very relevant anytime I put out a sales campaign. I will take that same piece of content and shove it out till later. There are a few pieces of content that I know are so true to my core messaging as a business owner, they are so true to me as a person, that I will repost at least a couple times a year. Or sometimes I like to lean in just reposting content when I know I have gaps in my content calendar, if I have vacation coming up, if I just need some time off. This allows me to maintain the consistency on social media that I've worked so hard to build without stressing myself out that, oh my God, I have to rush and create all this content before I go on vacation or before I take a break. Instead, I'm just simply filling in that content calendar with content I've already created. Okay, so diving to some examples here of just reposting your content over and over again. You can see that this was one of my highest performing TikTok videos in 2023 and then again in 2024. I literally reposted the same exact video. Even the text is a little bit of kind of outdated fonts on TikTok now, but you can see that I literally just reposted the same video because it was true back in 2023 when I posted it, and it is still true to today. And so it's something that is core and foundational to my overall message, to my products, what I sell, things like that. So I simply reposted it again on TikTok. I also do the same thing across platforms. So you can see I originally created this like photo-based carousel natively in TikTok, and it was a decent performer, worked really, really well. And I just saved those images that I created inside of TikTok and put it out as an Instagram carousel. Didn't change a thing, copy and pasted the caption over. So again, this can also work across platforms. This also works, again, taking a video from TikTok, and I didn't really care about changing the text and making it look native to Instagram. I did that same concept here again. And then the last type of thing that I like to do when it comes to reposting is I will repost the exact same thing over and over again. This is one that I post every single year. This does need a little bit of update for my brand. You can see all I actually did for this one is I just extended it. This originally, when I posted this in 2021, it was just square formats, and now it's like a 4x5 format. I still consider this reposting, even that still need a little bit of tweaking. But for when I go to post this again, I will update it with my new branding, but I will republish the same thing since it's a core message of mine over and over again. Next, diving into reusing your content. The biggest pro about this is, again, it's not very, very time consuming. It might need a little bit of a skill set, or you might have to learn a couple new things. But again, it's relatively low effort, and you can produce a new piece of content without a ton of extra time or energy devoted to it. And you can breathe new life into content that you've already spent time creating, and you don't have to start from scratch each and every time you want to create a piece of content. And again, the biggest con, similar to reposting your content, is that you really do need to have a system or process in place that will allow you to tap back into that original piece of content as a draft or something like that. For example, if you created a TikTok video and you didn't save the draft, or you don't have an original copy of the video, it's going to be really hard for you to reuse that piece of content. You might have to kind of recreate it from the beginning, whereas if you had saved that video, you might be able to just tweak the caption and put it out again. Or if you have it saved in Canva somewhere, you can edit the text really quickly. And again, this type of content and this approach works really well for that evergreen style of content. But the big difference here from just reposting content, you can actually use this for timely or trendy pieces as well. So for instance, let's say there was a trending audio that you used last month, and that message that you used along with that trending audio is still relevant today. Just find a new trending audio and use a similar message. Again, we're just kind of reusing that message with two different audios. The only time this doesn't work is if that timely content is something like an update or news or something that was relevant only in that moment. But let's say, I talked about how TikTok is changing XYZ feature. I can always talk about that a month from now and give the results of that or something like that. So when you want to lean into reusing content, this works so well if you're wanting to test out a new platform. You can reuse what you already have from one platform and put it on another, making minor tweaks and adjustments so you're fitting the culture of that new platform you're wanting to try out. This is also great if you want to kind of increase your posting frequency or the cadence at which you're posting on a platform already. So let's say you're already posting 3 reels on Instagram and you want to slowly start to introduce maybe daily Instagram stories. Can you tap back into some of that Reels content that you've already created and put it out as stories just to kind of get yourself used to a new format or get you used to a new form of consistency with a new style of content? And personally, I love to use this method for sales campaigns or launches specifically. So if there was a piece of content that helped me sell a product last time, last quarter, last year, I'm going to take that same piece of content. I might update what the bonuses are, the timeline, the whatever, some of the new features of whatever it is I'm selling. But the core part of that content is still the same and helped me sell last time. It's more than likely going to help me sell this time, just with a couple tweaks. So diving into a few different examples of reusing content, I often use this tactic by just changing the visual, but the core message is still the same. So you can see here with this one is that I actually just swapped out the video in the background and used the same message that's like on top as this tweet style overlay. And then it can also get a little bit more complicated. I changed not only the visual, but the format as well. So originally this was a video with some text overlay. Content that is posted is better than content waiting for perfection. And then the second post over here that you can see is actually just a graphic that has the same exact words, but the visual has changed. Reusing, again, I just tweaked and updated the visuals a little bit. I updated it not only with my new branding, but with the introduction of new platforms and things like that, and moved just a couple of things around and updated the kind of value of the post, if you will. And yeah, but otherwise, it's still a great piece of content. And again, with this one, I tweaked and updated the visuals, not only to fit my new brand, but just to kind of fit the platform a little bit better. It is the same exact text, just a different format, and it still resonated really, really well with my audience. This can also work across different platforms. So I took this thread that I initially, again, created natively in the platform. I took a screenshot and just applied a background to it so it looked a bit more branded and posted it on Instagram. So again, I changed the visual to fit a different platform. Since I could not just copy and paste this over to Instagram, Instagram is not a text-based platform, I had to screenshot and turn it into some kind of image. And you can do this for other platforms as well. This original carousel was for Instagram, and I created them as JPEGs in Canva. Instead of downloading them as JPEGs, though, for LinkedIn, I actually exported it as a PDF. And when you export as a PDF and upload into LinkedIn, it gives you that carousel-like effect, which is very, very popular on the platform. So again, I just adjusted the visual just a bit to fit the culture of another platform. And this last one here is honestly my personal favorite and the structure for vast majority of the content that I create, and that's repurposing your content. And the biggest pro to this approach is that you are going to get the biggest bang for your buck. You are going to get the most payoff, the most reward, if you will, because you are taking content and making sure that you're using it strategically across platforms or on the same platform. Sometimes works well as well, but you're kind of breathing new life into it while also making sure the format and the specifics of that piece of content fit the culture and nuances of a platform as well. So the biggest con with this, though, is that it does take a bit of a skill set, sometimes requires money, energy, outsourcing. So it is a bit harder than some of the other ones, but again, it has the biggest payoff. So typically I see that this works best when you're taking a long form piece of content and breaking it into smaller bite-sized chunks, but it can also work if you are just creating content for one specific platform and you're wanting to repurpose it throughout the week or a few months later. But the biggest thing that you need to know about repurposing content is that you're going to have a lot of different factors when it comes to repurposing that piece of content. You might change duration, you might change format, you might be changing the platform. So you could be taking a caption and turning it into a video script. You could be taking that video script, recording it as a YouTube, ripping the audio for a podcast. Like there's so many different things that go into this. And while it is efficient and it is going to help you in the long run, it does take a bit of time. And honestly, this is the exact way that I approach content creation every single day in my business. And now for some examples of repurposing your content. This is my favorite one, and I have a ton of examples here using my own content again. So basically, the first thing that I like to do is taking a long form piece of content like a YouTube video, it can become different clips for social media. So what you can see here, obviously I have my full length YouTube video and I broke it out into these 3 different short form clips. So for instance, that first one there is just a green screen. I was doing something in the YouTube video and I just did a quick little green screen grab of what I was presenting there and just put it in this 9:16 kind of ratio. Then I took the core message of that YouTube video and created more of a trendy, looks like it came from my iPhone notes, and put like trending music to it and things like that. And then this last one here is actually just a clip directly from the YouTube video. So you can see that I could have different video styles and different video formats just from that one long form YouTube video. You can also take a piece of like non-video content and create videos out of it. So again, I had a more beefy, lengthy Instagram carousel, and I turned it into a video script where I was talking directly to camera. I also turned it into a more trendy video and explained more in the caption. So you can take non-video content and turn it into video content. And you can also transform the piece into something entirely new. So originally I had posted a carousel over on Instagram that was a bit lengthier. I just created it on my iPhone notes app, took some screenshots, things like that. I then imported that into Canva, exported it as a PDF to get that carousel-like effect on LinkedIn. And then the words that I said inside of that carousel, I turned into a video script. So you can see that I took the words that I was saying there, took that video script and did more of a voiceover style video that I put on Instagram, on TikTok. I even put it up on Threads. Not the best, but you kind of get the idea is that I can transform that piece into so many different formats. So here's just a quick sneak peek into how I approach content repurposing for my business and for my clients. But if you want to dive in deeper, I recommend that you check out the Content Repurposing Guide, where I give you over 100 different ideas on how you can repurpose your content. You can check it out at the link in the description below. Otherwise, I will see you guys next week, and leave your questions in the comment section.